welcome everyone to Ensemble for These Times Expressionism concert and to our pre-concert composer talk. My name is Brennan Stokes. I'm the assistant director for the ensemble. I am thrilled to be joined with two of our commissioned composers on tonight's program, David Gardner, Valerie Liu. To start, tonight's theme, Expressionism, as a very generous art movement, a lot of music to go with it. Tonight we're going to be adding to that the excellent oeuvre of music. And I guess the first question for tonight to both of you is, for you, what does Expressionism mean for you in your composition?
For me, Expressionism is simply how the artist or the composer shows their own person through their art. Instead of depicting something, it's more of a process of of listening to the piece or looking at the painting, what it felt like to paint it, or what it felt like to write it. That's very simplistic, I understand, but that's basically when I teach neoclassicism and expressionism in seminar. I make a very clear distinction between impressionism and expressionism. I'm going to make this really short. Here's my unpopular theory. You know that at the turn of the 20th century, there was quite a lot of upheaval. And it shows in art and the music of that time. We are almost exactly 100 years later, and there is a lot of upheaval in the world. And it shows in the music and the art of our time. My unpopular theory is that I believe social media has made us so self-absorbed that we can't but be expressionist. I mean, that's what we do. We express. It's all about us. And that's a much more compelling way to listen and to look at modern expressionist art than to try to draw directly from the movement 100 years ago. But, you know, my students don't like that because it's kind of like rains on their social media thing.
For me, expressionism is to express the emotional experience. Feelings like yearning, anxiety, alienation, agitation. So I found most of the painting will seem to express that, and I think the music should echo that as well.
Thank you both. I know in this space we are very lucky to be able to incorporate media with tonight's presentation and tonight's concert, and both of you have multimedia works to go alongside your musical compositions. What was the process like for you in choosing the art or deciding on the visual media that you wanted to pair with your music? And is there anything kind of that you'd like for us to know as we experience both the visual and audio of your works tonight?
Actually, I started writing the music first because we wanted to celebrate Schönberg as a composer, his contribution to the music world. So I was looking into 12-tone technique already and creating my tone matrix. I can show you that later. All right. So I think music came first, in a way, yeah, because we were very focused on Schönberg. So then we decided to check into images, and then our director asked Schönberg Center to see if we can use some of the images. So things just somehow work together. Like we're able to get San Francisco MoMA to look into expressionist paintings. And then I was selecting painting, kind of at the same time thinking how my music goes. What painting might fit my music? And which painting might flow well. Like if I have a part that's more looking into like desire, so then I will look into painting that maybe will show that. Yeah, so.
I was interested in having something moving. I believe that this sort of combination of media and still performing is the way of the future. It's very, very hard for modern audiences to sit still and watch 4 people in tuxedos. It's really, it was hard for me when I was a kid, and that was like a long time ago. But I think that we can really augment our modern audience's experience by adding visuals. What I decided to do for mine was to have the actual trio live stream processed. In other words, we have a camera in the house, and Emma Markowitz, it was fantastic audio engineer and all-around media thing, is going to take images and video as the trio is being performed and process it through a variety of things that I can't begin to understand. So I always tell my students that you're going to lose an audience these days if you're online or anywhere if things are not moving. So all of our offerings tonight do not have just one image for the whole piece. There's a constant movement.
And I'm sure we're looking forward to seeing what media and music go hand in hand tonight. Valerie, I know you brought up this idea of the 12-tone matrix and things, and with Schoenberg there in music theory kind of spawned this whole new branch of kind of construction and composing and how to compose. I know in the program notes there's talk of rows and matrices and things of that sort. Valerie, would you be able to kind of explain this idea of the 12-tone compositional process?
Yeah, sure. You can have the phone. I think it would be best just to show you the tone roll. I think it's very interesting. I have never dived into it this deeply before. So this is the matrix I created, and the arrows you see are the ones I selected to use in my piece. Whether you're doing a retrograde or doing an inversion or retrograde inversion or the prime row. Now, what's interesting is you have to follow the order strictly. So you cannot repeat something. You cannot repeat something if you didn't finish it. So you must finish the row before you can take the repeat again. So in some ways, it's quite restricting. But I have like 3 instruments. So what you can do is have one instrument take a row, another instrument take a different row, and you place your timing of rhythm carefully or pace your events carefully. You could create very interesting counterpoint and very interesting harmony between all 3 instruments. Even just the piano itself, you could get a cluster of different chords from the row, and then you can create that as your harmony. Now, another thing I tend to do is sometimes you repeat your row. You might, it's kind of a little boring. Okay, you might repeat your row. But what I did is I may take out a note here. I may take out a note and replace it with just an instrumental action. So there's no pitch, but it's in replacement of the note. Now, action like, the cello will be something like a scrape or a scratch or a chop. Or the piano will be a harmonic thumb. Now, the reason I was doing that is sometimes you heard something for a while, even you have a no sound for that pitch, you're hearing it. You're hearing it in your mind. So I thought that was always very interesting, like you can use other sound in replacement of the note. So, but still I love orchestrating for different instruments because you can use different roles and then see what kind of harmony and melody created. So most of the melody tends to be angular and harmony tends to be very dissonant. But the idea is to also orchestrate them somewhat in a fragmented kind of way because you want it to match your painting at the same time. Yeah. For the second movement, I thought I mentioned it. I have to mention it's really different. I have to mention, second movement, I really did it differently. I did not follow the strict rules. I just take the first row and say, okay, first row, prime row, 0. What story can you tell me? So I just meditate on this and ask, just tell me story of your role. And I wrote a piece. I guess you can't tell you a story. 5 minutes of a story, just that role. So I didn't follow the repeat. I mean, I kind of take the repeat kind of freely. So I might, repeat something and not really follow it strictly. But it's kind of interesting. You just kind of limit yourself to something. Yeah.
And when we talk about these rows, what I think was so groundbreaking is that most melodies and harmonies were very called tonally conceived, or you think of a really beautiful melody that can be sung, where this idea of like tonic, dominant, there's a home key, you go somewhere else, you might return to it. There's always these almost like harmonic destinations that you want to go to or explore freely. And this idea of the 12 tone was almost liberating this notion that there was one key or note more important than anything else. And with these tone rows on the piano, kind of we call our white keys and black keys, the 12 half steps that lead up to an octave. You must use all 12 of those tones without repeat, creating these 12 tones in a sequence. And whether you want to then reverse that sequence, if you want to flip it upside down or backwards and upside down, creates these 12 pitches that are used as kind of entire units, constructing, like you said, these, in the traditional sense, I think these very angular sounds, these very dissonant sounds. David, you have kind of created your own variant on this tonal serialism. Do you want to kind of share how, kind of what that is and how you came about creating this?
I developed this for my second quartet, which was in 2014 for the Shanghai San Francisco International Chamber Music Festival. The reason that I did that was that I knew my counterpart, composer in Shanghai, wrote in classical serialism. And what Bren was describing is called classical serialism, and you'll hear 3 examples of that. Berg, Schoenberg, and Webern are all presented tonight. That's classical serialism. What Val and I have done is adapted those principles in 2 completely different ways with a lot of similarities, if that makes sense. So Val showed you a flat piece of paper. What would happen if that was a cube and not a square? That's the basis of tonal serialism. I am not seeking to destroy any sense of tonality, but I'm seeking to use classical serialism as a way to incorporate and gravitate towards a specific tonality. The trio tonight, for example, is in D, period. What I mean by 3 dimensions, by making a cube, is that Val touched on this a little bit, but with any tone row, if you have 12 pitches and you start in different places simultaneously, you end up with whatever kind of chord you want to have. But that's not fair unless you follow some of the precepts of serialism. So my basis is that I find tonal ways of dealing with intersections of the rows, but then the rows have to continue all the way through, just in classical serialism, until you get to the end. And therein lies a lot of challenge, just as much as with classical serialism and with Val's method. I should say, however, that of the 3 movements of my trio, the only one that is specifically and only tonally serial is the last one. The first 2 movements contain elements of the row, but do not follow the strict, in the strictest sense, going from one row to another row and incorporating other different kinds of rows. I took pieces of one row and used that as a development of a movement. I'm done.
I remember in undergraduate studying music theory, we got to developing, an exercise of, okay, well now create your own 12-tone row. One of my classmates took the cheeky route and actually wrote quite a lovely, he basically did kind of major chord triad spellings all the way through. But I'm here at the conservatory in advanced musicianship. Again, this idea that serialism must be dissonant, it must be angular, it must have some sort of grit to the sound. And being in advanced musicianship here with Scott Vogelsong, and really having him kind of open, I think, a lot of our eyes to placing even a serial melody within a harmonic context. And as a class, we would sing these on solfege syllables, but he would reharmonize these short melodies in these atonal melodies, and suddenly they became the most lush, beautiful things. Where even America Goes Copeland and Barber would utilize very much I think, isolated like atonal melodies, 12-tone melodies that are then, given a new life with their harmonies, and kind of going into this idea of context. What Schoenberg created, 100 plus years ago was very divisive for some. There were composers who definitely kind of swore off the idea of serialism as becoming accepted. But it definitely spurred on a new movement, and I know, David, you touched on this earlier, but with this idea of expressionism and serialism in Schoenberg, the question for both of you, what do you see Schoenberg's, how is he still relevant to us today? And where do you see kind of Schoenberg's influence continuing, or hope to see it continue?
I'm just thinking, just like in general, that he offered these techniques that you can use. So composer have various tools they can use to compose their music. So this is something we learn. I think is very useful. If you run out of ideas, sometimes you might want to look into like some of his techniques, and I think it's just really useful.
Structure, yeah. We have a new language thanks to Schoenberg. Also, what I've always admired about him and his two pupils, Berg and Webern, was that they were absolutely fearless. I mean, in the face of Richard Strauss and Mahler and Ravel and all of the contemporaneous composers that were writing at that same time, to come out with something that was so diametrically opposed and yet so incredibly beautifully structured and consistent was really something. And, Schoenberg paid dearly for it. I mean, he was ridiculed for a long time. But still, there was a resurgence in the 50s, and there's still people that are writing in classical serialism even today. But I agree with Val is that now we have an alternative that we didn't have before. We have tonal, we have German Romantic, we have jazz, we have ethno, we have serialism, all of these wonderful languages that a 21st century composer has at their disposal.
Thank you both. I know with serialism, and there are some composers who are very devout in their structuring of the rows and their reverses and their upside downs, that there are some who are devout in believing that you can audibly hear the inverse or you should be able to hear exact row replications, or from the prime row up a fifth, you should be able to hear all of these intersections. Is that something that either of you have come across that you're like in a string quartet, let's say, with all four instruments going, one on, taking a row, are you able to hear all of the components, or do you think at some point with such a heavy structure, there's more of an overall ethos to the sound, or is there something about being able to pick out and hear the specific kind of intervallic structure to these rows?
Well, I'd start off by saying it was a different world then. And I believe that personally I can hear all of this stuff, but I don't think it's necessary at all. I think there's a fuzzy realization with most audiences that there is structure involved, and then you follow the images that come to your mind, and hopefully the composer communicates human experience to you somehow. In the audiences now, to take Brennan's example, we do not necessarily hear specific key changes even in tonal music. We hear movement, we hear to and fro, towards and away from, but loud and soft. But we don't really hear the same way that most, and particularly European audiences, heard 100 years ago. It's much, much different, but I think the impact of the music obtains.
I don't really specifically listen for that, but it's just the general atmosphere that you created. You're hoping the audience get the character and the mood of the piece.
I know for myself, I do not specifically pick out and realize oh, this is the 7th prime variant of the original tone row, as most people probably would not, and if you can, bravo, Robbie, to you for being able to do so. Does anyone here have a question for either of our composers tonight?
You named 3 different languages that can be composed through at the same time. One of the things we do know that in black music, which is termed as jazz, as some people want to, all languages have always spoke through that language of what is called jazz. So in one sense you're saying there are 3, and in one sense I'm saying there's one of those languages that all expressions have moved through.
Thank you for sharing.
As we go along and get farther and farther away from the history of European music, the more everything is melded into it. And as long as you have pitch and duration, you have a musical structure. And the 12 tones on the piano is just the beginning. I mean, there's many, many more tones than that in any other culture than European art music. Jazz has blue notes, to be very simplistic about it. Other cultures have as much as 40 or 44 different pitches per octave. So it's all pitch and duration, and it's a marvelous, marvelous world. And everything is included. It's a holistic kind of thing, in my opinion.
Thank you for your question, sir. That is our time for our pre-concert chat. Thank you all for being here, and can we have a round of applause to our composers, David Garner, Valerie. Our concert will start in about 5 to 10 minutes, so use this time to stretch your legs and get ready for a really incredible concert. Thank you all for being here.